Oui, bonjour. Merci à tous ceux qui sont encore ici.
So thanks to all those of you who are still here. I'm Simon Brodeur. I'm an academic advisor, educational advisor at CEGEP Vieux Montréal. I'm in charge of some of the BIM programs for industry and the academic side at the CEGEP Vieux Montréal. We'll be presenting a panel with people from the private sector, universities, and CEGEPs. And there'll be 5 presentations, and then there'll be a brief question period. So I'd now like to invite Mr. Daniel Forgues up here, as well as Madame Susan Keenliside, Jean-François Lapointe from CEGEP Limoilou, Amin Hammad from Concordia, and Eyal Avital from Globally Learning.
Yeah, it is there.
So during the presentation, we will have panelists who will talk about the BIM programs from each of their institutions or for their company. And they have different teaching approaches for BIM. Mr. Forgues had a workshop at ETS last fall, and they were discussing industry priorities with respect to BIM. And the number 2 priority, most cited by participants in that workshop, was, at the time, education. So it's really one of the main goals of most organizations who are interested in BIM. They want to be able to train their employees. They want to be able to train their staff to be able to implement BIM. So we'll be discussing that. So Mr. Forgues from ETS, actually before you speak, you see that there's a photo of each of the people. Daniel Forgues needs no introduction. He's an ETS professor who's also responsible for the Pomelo chair. Susan Sang, who is a program coordinator in Algonquin College in Ontario. Jean-François Lapointe, who's a training and a CAO BIM advisor for CEGEP Limoilou, specifically for industry. And Amin Hammad is a Concordia professor, and he's also doing research on BIM at Concordia University. Eyal Avital is a success manager and partner at Globally Learning. Without any further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Forgues to make a presentation on what the ETS is doing. Thank you, Simon. So, hello again. Maybe that photo was taken 20 years ago, but it's still me up here. If you look at the research role, the idea is to be quite activist. In other words, there are different areas of research. You can do exploratory research.
Il y a un nouveau courant là, au niveau de gestion de construction.
In construction management, there's a new trend to do interventionist research. And we try to see also political changes. So if we're looking at research, there's those 3 areas. Act as a catalyst for change in industry. There's also be aware of what's happening with technology and help disseminate it, because a lot is happening in the world. And also there's training BIM qualified personnel, because you hear about it a lot today especially. It's important to create the new generation.
Entreprise, mais vous accompagnez dans le changement.
Not just to help companies, but to help you through the change. So we started the first BIM program, BIM graduate program in Canada. And with our activity last year, we began to join forces with CEGEPs, universities, and other training organizations to really provide a framework to develop BIM in Quebec. Catalyst for change. I think our best activity was our multi-sectoral table that we talked about this morning. We began that in 2011. We also published a manifest this year, which was tabled with the Department of the Economy to promote the construction industry and the importance of including it in the shift to the digital world. And we wanted to help get people across the planet to help develop a BIM curriculum. There were also partnerships with Context and CERAC. I've been working with them since 2003. I don't know if any of you remember, but we used to have meetings, and I think in 2011, it was major. The idea was to try to convince industry to start using BIM. And there were testimonials from Réal Laporte at Hydro-Québec and Pierre Pomerleau from Pomerleau. So being attentive to technological change and dissemination, we tried to have guides and formalize knowledge. We work a lot with industry. Industry moves faster than universities. They move faster than us, so what we do is we send students who are doing co-op work, we send them to do practical stages or internships, or they work with companies who are doing BIM projects. When I talk about being aware of what's happening in technology, we have connections with various labs across the world. There's Pomerleau, and we're trying to have a community of practice with the most BIM advanced companies in the world and the top researchers in the world. To be able to move forward more quickly. The research team is multidisciplinary. There are people in mechanical engineering, automated production management, IT, and they all work with us, people in management of change, organizational change. And if you look at highly qualified staff training, if you look at people who've graduated from ETS, already 10 students are BIM coordinators or BIM managers. So I think demand is very high compared to what we can produce, but still that does start the change in the industry. So the first master's level BIM program in Canada, I think CEGEPs do a great job teaching people the technology. At the university level, we need people who are going to be leaders in change. So the program has 6 courses. One is, why do we want to do this? What are the problems that the industry is experiencing? And what are the innovative practices that can help us to overcome these problems? New technologies. It's not just BIM, but there are other technologies, mobile technologies that exist. And of course, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D. And how to manage a BIM project, lean construction, and other practices and integrated practices. So did I do okay, Simon? You did very well. And now I'd like to call upon Susan to come and tell us about Algonquin College's programs.
Tu vas le finir?
C'est avec les cégep.
Fait que merci. Thank you very much, everyone. I also prepared my presentation in English. It's
I will continue in English.
In English.
I know your English is very good, but I'll try and speak clear and slow. So my name is Susan Keenliside. I'm based out of Ottawa, actually Gatineau, very proud. But Algonquin College is based in Ottawa, and this program was brought to the attention of the chair of the department. It's really his desire to do this program, and thankfully I've been engaged in that. It is called Lifecycle Management, and we'll look at what that means. It's a graduate certificate at the college level. That's 2 semesters. Graduate certificate means you need some kind of qualification going in. You need a diploma or a degree in a related field, and that requirement was in order to get candidates that already have a good understanding of how buildings go together. So you can't be a BIM manager, for example, if you don't understand how projects are delivered or how buildings go together. The management level or the graduate level was also important in terms of getting the leadership level required for that position. So we will start courses in this fall. Overall, we have a few goals. Certainly it's a college level, which is meant to be very applied, so a practical application focus. We are not training on tools per se. We're very much at the manager level, getting our hands wet on various tools, but we will not be teaching people Revit, for example. We are not trying to contribute to BIM washing, and we certainly are trying to deploy critical thinking and not strictly robots related to software. So what does lifecycle management mean? The general concept behind a college program is to deliver to a certain role. So quotes we use around BIM manager, there are certainly a number of terms that are applicable. Depending on the situation, there's a broad spectrum of competencies needed, depending on the situation, the project, the company type, the maturity within the company. But we are looking across the full life cycle in terms of the information you're delivering. So how are we keeping that information flowing through the process, through multiple stakeholders, even within multidisciplinary teams? How are we keeping the focus on that information or that data or that knowledge, and we're able to manage it so it doesn't get lost or duplicated or whatever the case may be? We have taken a framework approach. There is a goal to have another program come out shortly after at the operator level. But regardless of which level you're at, whether you are focusing at a technical level, a management level, an executive level, you need to cover all of the same topics, not necessarily in the same depth. And so a framework approach becomes very interesting to help us gauge where someone is at over time. We do follow the life cycle. You'll see down the column on the left, following the life cycle all the way through the 2 semesters. We do have 5 streams that we cover. So tools and technology is only one of those 5. And then for each semester, we have a 1 week, what we call a blitz. So essentially all of the skills you've learned through that semester, the 14 weeks. In your 15th week with industry, now you're putting it all to the test in a live mock-up, almost like a BIM blitz, or a BIM storm, sorry. You might be familiar with BIM storms. So the framework approach was born out of the typical 3 definitions of BIM. It's a tool, it's a process, it's a principle. And with our feet on the ground, understanding that standards are important, as well as understanding the outcomes or the deliverables that you'll be delivering, as well as the practicum aspect. So industry partners are a major part of how the college operates as well. And the BIM blitzes that we put on at the end of each semester, this microphone is terrible, that we put on the end of each semester is the chance for industry partners to come and participate and see the talent that is now going to be available on the market. This is the first course in the fundamentals stream that gives a sense of the topics that we're going to cover and how we handle covering the life cycle. So within that first course, we cover the first half of the life cycle to the end of design. And we also cover all the main topics that need to be addressed and then carried through in the rest of the subjects. We have a very impressive faculty team. All of them are industry practitioners, and they are involved in some capacity either with the curriculum development or the teaching. Curriculum development can be done not necessarily based in Ottawa. Currently, for teaching, we are offering a hybrid scenario, so some classes will be available online, but the majority currently are, you need someone based in Ottawa, so that's one of our limiting factors of drawing the talent. Moving forward, it will all be available online, and it won't matter where our instructors are located. So we do continue to look for whoever would be a good candidate as either curriculum development or teaching, and if you have an interest, I suggest you contact me. For our program advisory committee, they meet 2 or 3 times a year. This is the industry's method, this is the college's method for keeping engaged with industry and making sure they're responding with their educational offerings to what industry needs. So it's to represent industry, to act as a partner, to have input on the direction of the program and review the program, make sure it's still responding to this industry need. And then we have the opportunity to use some of the projects being delivered as examples within the classroom. The BIM Blitz is certainly a major element where we engage with industry, and case studies as well. So if you're interested in being part of that committee, please let me know. And finally, if you're looking for information, there is a website for it. You'll see things on Facebook and Instagram as well, and you can always just go to algonquincollege.com and search for BIM. It's the first hit that comes up. So thank you very much. Thanks for your attention.
So that's how you shrink a 10-minute presentation to a 6-7-minute presentation, and with almost no time, no notice time in it ahead. Thank you very much. Jean-François, if you will, you're welcome to come on stage.
You change the language. He switch in English.
So, good afternoon again, everyone. Well, first of all, it's always very pleasant to see the cooperation we get to look at the education institutions that are with us on the same stage. So the message is clear. We also want to collaborate and work together with you. So we're very happy to be here today with you. And I'm also very happy to be here today. So first of all, well, I speak quite a lot. I talk quite a lot. So 7 minutes, it's a lot for me. So 5 minutes, no, that's better. I'll go faster. So first of all, as I said, some of you might not know the CEGEP Limoilou, Inc. What is it? It's under the direction of service to companies and ongoing training. It's an incubator for innovation. In fact, it's an entry to our programs. And as I said, it's also an incubator to train people who will then work for the industry. I will present to you our mission, our vision of BIM for Limoilou, Inc. Without further ado, I start. In fact, what's important here, for those of you who know Limoilou CEGEP, it's a technical college that teaches many techniques linked to the building. In Limoilou, what is important is the cohesion and integration of departments. For us, it's absolutely essential. BIM is multidisciplinary, as was said, so it's important to treat this with the skills we have in each and every one of our departments. So CEGEP Limoilou, as I said previously, is present in building and infrastructures, thanks to various programs, geomatic techniques that we have in Limoilou. It's established in 2 campuses in Quebec and Charlebourg. We also have a civil engineering technique. We also have engineering, mechanic, electric engineering, and industrial engineering, which is important for the processes. You see then that with 5 techniques, all the knowledge and the skills we have in our college to deal with BIM. One discipline is missing, architecture. This is why we created a consortium with the CEGEP du Vieux Montréal to complete this multidisciplinary aspect. So, secondly, he uses a French expression constantly. So now the BIM Education Program that some of you know already is the BIM. It's a short program that's been offered for the last 2.5 years or 3 years. It's made up of 4 modules, and it's destined to the stakeholders of the industry in order to be able to talk the new BIM terminology, new BIM language. So it's only an introduction. Now we have some 200 participants for the 4 modules. So who followed these modules? We have a team of trainers coming from the industry, so BIM managers that are certified. They have the last level of certification from CanBIM. This is offered in Montreal and Quebec by ETS, École de technologie supérieure, here in Montreal, and in Quebec City at the Limoilou CEGEP. So this is the first program that we offer, that we've been offering for some time already. Some heard about it already, that we are now finalizing the college specialized studies, college level. When we talk about a specialization program, it's 500 to 600 hours destined to the stakeholders of the industry, technicians and professionals. So it's a specialization that requires, obviously, prerequisites to get into it. Now, a target program dealing with digital model. So people from various sectors teach this. Now, the level of skill targeted by this program, we have a level of skills that deals with modeling, so the use of the tool as such, and there's also the management side. So the side that is more for the academia, so we won't deal with this modeling. That it's applicable in some programs, so it's integrated in some study programs we have now. And at CEGEP Vieux Montréal, you also have such a course, a modeling course. So we are involved in the coordination side. And it's according to the consultations we had, there is a very big need for the models. The program is really adapted to the industry, flexibility, accessibility for people who are working, who have a job. So the target of this program is to train people who already have an experience in the industry, to bring them to a higher level. So, role and position. Present role and positioning in the BIM development. Well, the colleges are very proactive. They're very flexible, they're neutral, and they focus on accessibility. So, in fact, the colleges, tries to adapt to the needs of the industry. It's a strength, and for the skills of the teacher inside, these teachers and professors are used to teaching technologies. We're not dealing with change management or forcing people to use new technologies, because they are used to doing that in the program. So it's natural for them. There's also the capacity. We have to say that the degrees that are provided by our CEGEPs are recognized by the government of Quebec. This person, unfortunately, is not speaking in a mic, so we don't have the feed, we can't hear him properly. So the degree is recognized by Government of Quebec. So for innovation, partnership, and technology watch, we work closely with industry, like ETS, and Limoilou CEGEP wants to use the same model. BIM evolves rapidly. We need to work closely with the industry, and we need the industry as well to tell us what their needs are. The relevance analysis, these are analyses that have been made with industry. Analysis of the working situation. This was done by a committee that was made up of various representatives of the industry, 15 representatives from the industry who came to work with us during long hours to develop the tasks, identify the skills that are required. And finally, development of the curriculum. The colleges are adapted to the realities of Quebec. So it's an effort we make to make sure that our program, our curriculum are adapted to Quebec's reality. Now, to conclude, the success of the BIM deployment involves many aspects. I would like to talk now about the three categories, people that are responsible to disseminating the best practices.
Voilà, ça va être. Je vais en parler tout à l'heure après la certification, juste pour vous teaser un peu. Je vais faire une.
I will make an announcement and I will talk about the last slide. So we are waiting for you until the end.
Donc, merci beaucoup, Jean-François.
Thank you very much, Jean-François. Well, I let Jean-François go over his time because he could use the time I did not use during my presentation. Now, well, indeed, I was quite short at the beginning. So I would like to introduce you Amin Hammad, that many of you know already. He's professor at Concordia University. I'm sorry, I will speak English.
Can we have the presentation?
Press the button.
No?
Okay. Come in.
So I'll introduce myself. My name is Amin Hammad. I am professor at Concordia Institute for Information Systems Engineering. So I'm very pleased to be here with you today and to talk about, speak louder, BIM teaching and research at Concordia. So, okay. So first I would like to introduce my colleagues at Concordia. We have a very good size of researchers and educators who have interest in BIM. Most of them are in the area of construction engineering and management, including myself, except Dr. Bakchi, who is in the area of structural engineering. So I'll start with the education part. So we have several courses at the graduate and undergraduate level. In the undergraduate level, we have building engineering drawings and introduction to design, where the students will learn the basics of technical drawings. And then they will apply that in another course, which is building engineering design projects. They will apply it in a residential building design, focusing on envelope design, energy estimation, and cost analysis. Then we have another specialized course about cost estimation, which is cross-listed, so also graduate students can take the same course, and they will learn the basics of 5D modeling using Navisworks. Then most of the students will have to apply these technologies and the knowledge that they acquired over the years in their capstone graduation project. At the graduate level, the main course that we have is about building information modeling in construction. So as you can see here, the main focus is on the BIM from the owner's perspective, contractor's perspective, construction safety, and then how we can use BIM for project changes and as-built modeling. Of course, the students will learn the basics of interoperability, and for those who didn't take the previous courses about BIM, we have introduction to building information modeling. Now, in the graduate courses, we don't teach Revit, for example. We assume that the students can learn it by themselves, and most of them, they will do very well. We have other courses that are related to BIM. I mentioned already the course about project estimation that is cross-listed. We have fundamentals of facilities management, where the students will be applying BIM for applications in the operation phase, as well for energy applications and green buildings. We have a course about sustainable infrastructure planning and management. This is a course that I teach on a yearly basis. And the students can use the BIM, in this case, not for buildings, but for infrastructure systems in general. I will show you some examples later on. And we have a course about IT in construction, and this course also the students can use BIM in their projects. So this is an example of what the students in a course project can do. This is the business school of Concordia that was built a couple of years ago. And this is done by a single student in the period of time of 8 weeks, something like that. Of course, not all students will be able to achieve that level. So we have the 4D BIM, and this model was developed using Archicad. Now I'll move to the research. So I'll go a bit quicker here because I have maybe 10 slides about research. But just to give you a flavor of what kind of research we do at Concordia, and what we aim is to achieve things that are not achievable today. So things that will be definitely doable in the next 5 to 10 years, and that may have some practical values as well. So here I start with some applications in construction, and specifically in construction safety. So the idea here is we have a worker on a scissor lift installing HVAC ducts, and we have to reserve this area what we call a workspace. So that's an aspect that can be added to BIM, what is related to the activities during the construction work. In addition, we have the traces that you can see here. We are tracking the workers and the equipment using something like indoor GPS. We use a specific technology called ultra-wideband, and we can see if a worker is coming close to the workspace, the reserved workspace, and in that case, we will initiate a warning alert to that worker. Another application in construction related to highways, and the specific example that we have here is for the Turcotte interchange that is under construction now in Montreal. So we have the yellow parts that are the segments of the current highway, and the green parts that are to be built. And we are applying here kind of 4D clash detection to see if we can avoid delays that may happen because of delays in the demolition of the existing highway. And we are coupling 4D modeling with discrete event simulation, which is a stochastic method for simulating activities. Moving to facilities management, here we have an example using mixed reality, similar to what we saw earlier in previous presentations. And the idea here, we have the inspector using a tablet so he can see what is hidden above the false ceiling, let's say HVAC ducts or something like that. And then he can communicate this information with the operator at the office management, at the facilities management office. So here we have the augmented reality on this side, and we have the virtual reality on the other side, and people can communicate in real time. Another example in facilities management, what we call here visual analytics. The idea is to see what could be the possible reasons for a problem. Let's say very hot or very cold problem in this space. So the problem could be in the mechanical room that is very far on another floor, or could be because of a problem in the window or the thermostat in the same space. So the facility manager can look at these different possibilities, and that may help him in identifying the actual cause. Another application that's somehow unique in our work is related to applying BIM in building security, and specifically in optimizing the surveillance cameras in a space, in a building. So this is an application in our building, the EV building of Concordia, in the first floor, where we can see the combination of different cameras. Here we have 4 or 5 different solutions that can be generated, and we can optimize the visibility and the cost of these different solutions. Now, another area of interest is to extend BIM to other types of infrastructures. For example, here we are trying to apply it for utility tunnels. In fact, there is a project happening in Montreal for a trial to apply utility tunnels in a small segment near ETS, actually. And the company Simaplis shared with us some of their data. So we are trying to see how we can mix different standards. For example, we have another type of BIM for tunnels. We have some standards for utilities. So how can we mix all these utilities together in a new type of BIM that can help in the coordination of the construction of utility tunnels? Another example related to extending IFC. Now, the standard for BIM, what we call industrial foundation classes, can be extended to accommodate the new accessories for smart buildings, for example. So here we are talking about radio frequency identification tags that can be used to track components during the life cycle in a building. My colleagues are doing a bunch of other interesting topics also, so I will not have time to go through them. It has to do with constructability, maintainability. Socio-BIM, this is related to social networks and how we can relate information to the BIM model. And applications for crane stability. We saw some examples this afternoon also. And ergonomic assessment for mechanical components. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to j'aimerais inviter Monsieur Eyal Avital à nous présenter e-global e-learning.
That's a good attempt, Simon. Now, I was just wondering, just before I came up here, if it's a BIM requirement that everyone be so tall it feels like it's a very tall group, and a few of us have to keep lowering the microphone, so my apologies.
Micro, je m'en excuse. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having invited us to this roundtable. My colleague and myself are very happy to introduce our course of B-Training online, and our courses now, training courses are now certified BIM. Alors, I work with our partners in distribution as advisor, expert advisor to make sure eTraining succeeds. Now, some information concerning Globally Training. It's a supplier of training solutions online, interactive. It's based in Canada, and recipient of the prize for the sectors of architecture, engineering, and the industry and the construction industry. We are the biggest supplier of Autodesk supplier online with 30 years of experience in delivering courses. We are a strategic partner of training for some of multinationals of all sorts, and we're cited in Fortune 500. We're one of the best in the world. We're very happy to be partnered with Cancel and Digital School to offer our courses that are certified. Globally Training has the biggest library, the advanced platform, with more than 6,000 hours of targeted content in the field of AEC. We offer a training, a BIM, a comprehensive BIM platform with at professional level. It's a pleasure for me to say that our e-training courses online are eligible for certification with the biggest Autodesk library in the world. And with such a library, we are very well positioned to offer our training to any company, government group, or education institution who would like a BIM certification. Now, how can Globally Training be managed? It was designed for a director. It's an implementation that is turnkey. The training is based on an ROI, return on investment. Assisted by our BIM platform, you can use not only our knowledge flow, but you can also modify our content that can then become the basis of your own customized content. Our BIM training contains not only a certification platform, but it can be also customized in order to contain your exclusive content or license distribution. Bon, GETS, c'est Globally Training, integrates advanced technologies, and it's adapted. It's unique for each and every one, and it creates a training experience that is customized. 94% of the Globally Training students get more comprehension and technical skills from BIM and can then work on real scenarios. We're able to provide our training on any platform, any device, at all time and everywhere. To access Globally Training, you only need a device and an internet connection. This allows the BIM training on site, on the site of the project, or during a conference such as this one. Our online training uses interactive text, audio demonstration, practical exercises, evaluation of competencies, and immediate return after having taken the courses in the classroom. How do we develop our BIM courses and other libraries? We use our exclusive tool, the generator. It's a cloud software that deals with the creation process based on collaboration. The intuitive interface is very easy to use and doesn't require any specialized knowledge in design. And that's it.
Aussi, il y a un
There's also a plugin with our software, Global eTraining. We're very happy to offer this plugin. Gives you access to the eTraining. It also works with Autodesk and connects directly with the eTraining. It interacts with the toolbar and allows you to save time when you have to learn, to have some information or have some queries or need some information. Now, our training and tools are in place for you to have a good return on your investment. We have a system of management and report that's able to show the progress and the statistics concerning the knowledge acquired by the student.
ici, juste dernièrement, pour les dernières quelques slides, en tant que formation de
So, as trusted partners, Global eTraining also provides you with a customer success manager, such as me, to implement the program. As a trusted partner, we will also work with you to implement your success and provide the training in your organization. And thank you very much for listening to me today, and do visit our kiosk. Thank you very much.
OK, alors merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much to all of our panelists. Now we have a few minutes left, some 10 minutes for Q&A. If our participants have questions they'd like to ask. Again, we have the universities represented here, the master's to bachelor's systems, degrees. We also have CEGEPs, the Algonquin College. If you have questions about how to access these programs, the length of the study programs, is this possible for people working to take part in the programs? If not, I have questions from me. Regarding the BIM situation today, what would you say, Danielle, are the biggest challenges for education? Would anybody like to answer that question among the panel members? Well, I could talk on behalf of the universities, specifically given the symposium that we held. At the university level, we have programs available that are very difficult, they're long, where it's difficult to change. And I'd say that BIM is a little bit like the Trojan horse. We need to adjust our programs to match industry requirements. And I think that's the biggest challenge for us. And that's what Francois was asking as well. Previously, knowledge was being generated by university research. Now, most of the BIM knowledge is actually in industry. So it's very important that there be collaboration between us and you in terms of what we're doing. I'd say that all of my students work on applied projects with industry, and that it helps you to develop your practices. It also brings knowledge into the university that we can then transmit to our students. I totally agree, and I'd even add this. In terms of the teaching, the quality of the teaching, we're in change mode. There are new technologies, there are new procedures that have not yet been integrated into our departments. This is really a call that I'm launching to you to involve your industry. The best practices and the trainers, as well as the teaching material, would help us. We could share that teaching. So building models takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy as well. So industry is one way for you to help us to do this. So again, this is being done. We have the BIM trainers. These are all people from industry directly. So it's very important to have this implication to share the best practices, and we'd like to see this continue so that we can apply that to our programs as well. It's true, one of the main challenges that had been identified during the ETS symposium that took place last fall is that for all of the teaching institutions, the biggest problem is to get the teaching material, to have basic material available for a course. In literature, our teachers tell us that we're going to teach you about Victor Hugo. You have his works there that we can use. But when you want to give a course on BIM, there is no Victor Hugo. We need somebody who's going to give us a knowledge base on which we can then build exercises and hold collaborative workshops. Because if we start producing real models at CEGEP University, it would take us a long time before we actually complete it.
I'm happy to hear your comments. And in fact, my thinking is that now BIM is kind of a game changer. We have to learn BIM. But eventually, BIM will be embedded in all our courses. For example, for cost estimation, we will learn how to use BIM for cost estimation. For scheduling, it will be the 4D concepts will be integrated with the scheduling course. The basic knowledge or the techniques about how to use the software will be embedded in the drafting course and so on. So there will be no BIM specific course. I think in about 10 years from now, people will be learning BIM, as you mentioned, as they learn, let's say, about the literature concepts for a specific writer or something like that. They don't have a course about Victor Hugo. They don't have a course about Victor Hugo. They have a course about whatever topic they are studying.
There's just something I'd like to say. We've talked a lot about multidisciplinary collaboration. No doubt this is one of the biggest challenges we're facing in university. The engineering and architecture schools are separate. And the human factor, as I think some already mentioned and have seen when they started implementing BIM in their companies, is very important. It isn't technology that's the biggest obstacle, it's the human factor. So the social sciences aspect is almost non-existent in our specialized schools. And it's something that we've tried to work on. We've tried to bring in people who work on organizational change, on change management, because BIM is only the beginning. We're going to see more and more of this as well. You and we must become increasingly flexible companies. We must be able to seize that change so that we can keep our competitive edge. Thank you very much. We have a few moments left. I'd just like to know if anybody here from industry would like to ask a question about the priorities that industry should address, just to use an Anglicism, sir. I'm very much interested in seeing an add-on to training. So in your offer, in what you've been saying about education, have you thought about the people who work, let's say 50, 60 hours a week, just to be available? The global union solution is great. But what about CEGEP's universities? Are there any programs available that would be available for employees who are already very, very busy, for professionals? Jean-François, in fact, earlier when I presented the college certification, well, that's one of the challenges we're facing. And because the colleges are flexible, we are able to provide part-time training courses specifically targeted at working people. We know that the primary needs currently are in industry. But afterwards, it's the graduates. The first waves will be from people who are already working in the profession. That's our priority. And I think we're all complementary. Global e-learning is one way of learning. And yet, let me add this. We're working on change. We're working on developing collaboration and communicating. Collaboration and communication have to be given in tandem before. They have to be a priority before we work on technologies. First, we have to learn to work together. So we have to be there. Clearly, we need to free up people to allow them to get training. This has to be done before we can even start developing these new work methods and collaboration. We're working on skills. We're not working on knowledge. Knowledge is something that you acquire from a distance, but skills development is something that you need to practice. This has to be put into practice. And that is a process. It's very difficult to do that in a remote setting. Very quickly, in closing, I was going to ask this question. Do you believe that ongoing training compared to regular full-time training has a role to play in this? And I think that's just what Jean-François was explaining. He said that ongoing training means that sometimes you have to change the course schedule to help professionals who may just be available, let's say, one evening during the week so that they can move forward in learning BIM. Well, perhaps the last comment. I remember when I was a consultant, people said they don't have time to plan. We just don't have it. And you've already seen people who are pulling on a cart with square wheels and they don't have time to look at that other invention, the wheel. So I think it's going to require engineers and architects whose training is much more extensive. I was looking at it in the United States. The firms that are dominating the market often are involve people who have PhDs in BDC and BIM. So I think in Quebec we tend to stop at the bachelor level, but I think in order to have masters and PhD people, we need to develop critical thinking, and I think it's important for companies to invest in that. Look at Pomerleau. There's a postdoctorate. There are a couple of people who have masters, and they've invested in people who have a high-level training, and I think that's been truly a payoff. Thank you, Daniel. Al, perhaps a final word in closing?
Just like Jean-François was saying, a solution like global e-training, which is a different digital distribution of this training. You have the CEGEP system, the university system, and you have an online deployment tool. And global e-training, we see it as a collaboration effort where this is not a competition where we're trying to outdo each other in terms of training, unless you guys get together and there's wrestling after at the bar or something. Maybe that takes place, I don't know. But hopefully Simon can referee. But no, it's really about for the learning, finding what's going to be the best delivery method for you to get the training that you need to reach your BIM standards that you're aiming for. So whether that's doing a full-time class at one of the CEGEPs or universities or Algonquin, or if you're working a 60-hour week and you need to squeeze in your training, maybe that's where you need to look at an online solution where we can actually do a plug-in, put your training directly while you're working on a project. So it's really a question for each learner, just looking at what your needs are and then finding the right solution from the different offerings we have on this panel that'll meet your needs.
Thank you very much to our panelists. So thank you very much to you. That's all our time. In fact, we're a little bit over time. So thank you very much for your attention and for participating, and thank you for CanBIM for giving us the opportunity to presenting each of our teaching programs. So I am now going to turn the floor over to Mr. Pietro, who I think is going to take over. Thank you to all.